Hello and welcome to the 10th episode of When I Was Your Age. I'm your host, Roland Parker, coming to you from the double digits. And as always, it is a joy, pleasure, and a treat to have you here. Today's guest is Kai He. Super excited to catch up with him. It's been a while since I've seen him last. So really want to get an understanding of what he's been up to. Before we do get started, a little bit of housekeeping for you all. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram at WIWYA Pod. And thank you so much for the support. We are at 443 followers, which is a huge deal. I really appreciate all of the love that we've received there. If you've got questions that you want me to ask a guest or that you want to ask me in particular, DMs and email are open for that reason. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna go ahead and bring Kai into the stream. Kai, how's it going? What's up with
Good.
you,
How
my
are
friend?
you? What's
Doing
up?
good. Doing good. I'm gonna pause the background music. That's one that I always have trouble with is trying to make sure that I do that because I think it adds to the ambiance.
Yeah, no, I
But
think this is cool. Like this whole setup is cool. I've never even heard of like this website.
that's yeah. I liked it. I really it was really important to me to be able to do um meetings in a similar fashion to Zoom because I knew that so many of the people that I wanted to talk to, were going to be in different states or just like all different kind of areas of my life, much like yourself. And that was how I kind of came across this platform.
Mhm.
Platform's called StreamYard. You can sponsor if you like. I doubt you're listening, but that's always welcome. Um, so if you are not already, make sure that you follow Kai on Instagram. I've got two accounts to up there today. Um, so yeah, I was kind of scrolling back, and it seems like it's been a while since you've posted on the workout account. What's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I'm too busy these days. Actually, I just worked out, but um I feel like I'm less comfortable recording myself in the gym now.
Hmm.
For some reason, back in Alabama, I saw more people recording in the gym. So it made me more
Really?
comfortable recording. But
Okay, that's
here,
interesting.
yeah, I haven't seen anyone record, so I was like, "Oh
Really?
my gosh, I can't be the only one that records."
That is like not that's not what I expected at all. I
Yeah.
would have definitely assumed the opposite. Yeah, it's for me, it's less about like the self-consciousness aspect of it or the awkwardness of setting up or leaning my phone up against a water bottle or a
Yeah.
dumbbell or
Yep.
something, but the time I don't want to. I'm trying to get it in and out like
Mhm.
relatively quickly, and but then I also just forget. I
Yeah.
forget to do it because when I was doing it pretty consistently, I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna do one exercise for one set, and I'll make it my last set so that I can hold myself accountable and try really hard.
Mhm.
Um, and then I just never I don't know. I've fallen off for a bit also. So it's
Yeah, no.
maybe we'll have to get back into it.
Yeah, I totally agree 'cause, I'm working like 70, 80 hours a week, and now I'm just like, "Oh, man, I gotta get in 1 hour, I gotta get out." Like, I
Yeah.
can't be there any longer.
Oh my gosh, 70, 80 hours. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that too. That's intense. That's insane. Um, I do have a little bit of a get to know you kind of section here that we'll dive in before we talk about where you're at, what you're doing, everything like that. But let's get started with it. So, first things first, where are you from and where do you currently live?
Yeah, so I was born in China, but I moved to Birmingham, Alabama when I was 8 years old. Pretty much grew up there, but now I'm out in California in Orange County. And yeah,
Nice, very
here I
cool.
am.
I did not know that you were born in China.
Yep.
So, what at what age did you move to Birmingham?
Yeah, I was 8. So I think I was in 3rd grade when I first moved.
Wow. Okay. See, I did not know that. Um, what is your kind of recollection of like the move and everything?
For me, I didn't remember that much of it. My mom always tells the story of like the very first time. So we actually visited Birmingham because my dad was here before we officially moved, and she would
Okay.
always tell me the story of how the first time we visited, the TSA stopped us, and since we didn't speak English, we had no idea like what was going on, and I was just like freaking out, crying the whole time. But I mean, we made it. So,
Oh my
but
gosh.
other than that, really, I don't remember much.
Wow, that's wild. And yeah, that's I don't know why I didn't know that about you. I didn't realize that because 8 is I don't know, that feels pretty old to, like, make that trip and, like, start out, like, kind of brand new. So you said your dad lived in Birmingham already.
Yeah.
How long had he been living there before you guys moved?
I think he was here about a year or so, maybe a year to 2 years
Okay.
before. Yeah. Um, it was, I guess, I got kind of lucky because I think 8 years old is kind of when everyone forms that like final fluent speech.
Mhm.
So I got lucky where I learned English quickly enough to like be fine now. And then
Yeah.
I still knew Chinese, and my parents would speak Chinese to me. So I think I got lucky for the age that I moved.
Yeah, no, that's why I remember one of the more interesting classes I had in college was, language development, and there's, like, the critical period
Hmm.
of where, like, you have this window of, like, when you are learning, like, these type of skills. If you're gonna be learning a second or third language, then it's really important that it's kind of around this time. Otherwise, you there you just encounter, like, a whole bunch of issues, but, like, yeah, that's so crazy. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
feel like I don't even remember what the age is, but, like, yeah, it might there might have been an element of luck of, like, "All right, this is the time, this is when we're doing it all."
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, I
okay.
got totally lucky. My mom just speaks like Chinglish to me at home.
Oh my gosh. So that's okay, so is it primarily Chinese, like, when she's talking to you, that's, at home?
Yeah, so primarily Chinese. My Chinese, I mean, it's like at an 8-year-old level. So like if you can throw me into China, I'll stay alive, but
Mhm.
I probably like won't do well. So I'll respond in like half Chinese, half English, and she understands English, but Chinese is obviously more comfortable for her, and I
Yeah.
understand it, so it works out.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it. Well, I definitely wanna dive into that a little bit more. Um, so, second kinda get to know you question here. It's, we it's I liked that tangent that we just went off of, but what do you do? What are you, into currently?
Yeah, so right now I'm a surgical resident, and that means I finished medical school, technically a doctor, but not really. Bottom of the totem pole doctor. I'm in residency for general surgery, and I'll be here for at least 5 years. And afterwards, I'll have specialty training in something. But yeah, other than that, I like to work out. I like to play video games. Not nothing too special. Yeah.
Nice, that's awesome. How old are you? And the reason for asking is kinda central to the theme of the pod is, um, I've noticed and seen people doing impressive things that are kind of around the same age, and a few episodes in, I wasn't kind of identifying what stage of life people were in. So, that's the reason for asking this question. How old are you?
Yeah, so I'm 26, and it's funny you asked that because I get asked that at least once a day.
Okay.
Because in the hospital, like people look at me and they're like, "How old are you? Are you really my doctor today?" Like, but yeah, yeah, I'm 26.
Has there ever been a point of, like, someone standing off with you or being real just kind of oppositional? Like, I would rather, like, have somebody else who looks a little bit older, like, come and, like, work with me? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think I've gotten lucky. Most of the time when people do ask me, it's more like, "Wow, you look so young." Like, but I know you're not as young as I think you are,
Mhm.
because you're at the stage. But you know, good genes, I guess.
So there you go. Yeah. So I hope that you get to maintain it all and that youthful exuberance. Um, what piece of media are you currently enjoying? Be that a book, podcast, music, TV, anything like that that's kind of, grounding for you,
Mhm.
maybe in part of the routine. What are you consuming right now?
Yeah, so I hate to say TikTok,
Sure.
but besides TikTok, I've actually been really into audiobooks.
Okay.
And unfortunately, my most recent audiobook got returned before I could finish it. And
Oh
then
man.
other people had reserved it. So now I have to wait like weeks before I can get it again. But I do love audiobooks. Like just get to chill out, take a walk or something, and just put an audiobook on. Yeah, that's great.
Nice stuff. That was a really big move for me in college was if for like the reading and stuff, I would either add it as a supplement to the reading, like get the audiobook version of the text, or just like straight up get the audiobook exclusively so that I could like do other stuff or like put it at like 1.5 times
Yep.
speed and crank it out. Specifically kind of remember we had, oh man, now I can't remember the exact name of the class. It was outdoor leadership, but we're reading Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. It was the terrible kind of tumultuous Everest expedition that just went like went awful.
Mm,
But there were so many different names. I was like, I gotta hear this out loud. I'm going crazy, like
yeah.
trying to like read this, like just and that. But it. So what was the book that you had to return before you finished?
Yeah, so what got me back into audiobooks is this like kind of, I guess, fantasy action series. It's called Red Rising by Pierce
Okay,
Brown.
that sounds
Um,
familiar.
yeah, so it's kind of about like classist divisions and how like you overcome that from the lowest, and then this whole like intergalactic war thing.
Nice.
Um, Nothing too deep, but the book that I had to return early was the most recent one. It just got published, I think, in July, and it's called
Okay.
Lightbringer. Really, really tragic that I was on the like last three chapters too.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's tough. And are they particularly like big books?
I don't know because I've never actually seen the physical books
Mhm.
themselves. I think this last one was 30 hours.
Okay.
So not sure how that translates into,
I
a
feel
book.
like I would call that big. Like I listened to like several of the Game of Thrones books,
Yeah.
and I think that um I feel like they were like 20-ish hours depending on what speed you were putting them on. So 30 feels like a lot, I would say. I would put that pretty high. I don't know to what thickness that like translates to.
How many
Um
pages it is. Yeah.
right, right. Um Okay, so well, tell me this then. What is the system for renting an audiobook? Because I've never done that.
Yeah, so I think there's this app. Well, not I think, I know there's this app. It's called Libby.
Yeah.
You basically just have to have a library card from, I don't know, any library, like your local library. Like I use the one from Jefferson County Library,
Okay.
and you just enter the library card into the app, and you have access to whatever audiobook selection that the library has access to. But with that said, it's just like a library system. If someone else borrowed the audiobook, then you can't do it.
Mm.
You can't borrow it. And if you return it and it's on hold for someone else, it'll automatically go to someone else. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I feel like I've heard the Libby like app like it
Mhm.
as well. Okay. Need to check that out. Need to employ that for sure. Because I feel like I've heard of people using Libby for it's like the digital versions of books, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the audiobook component I'd never
Mhm.
thought about that.
Yeah, you can actually also check out the like books themselves, like a I guess it's kind of like a Kindle. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool. Nice. So dropping major knowledge. Well, everybody go get hooked up with your local library. Get logged into your Libby. Um, nice. Good. It's a good deal. And you said the Red Rising series.
Hmm.
Okay, good deal. Gotcha. I've seen and kind of like heard that before, but I've not ever really gotten into it. The one for me recently, I've been watching The Wire.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that show.
It's a dude, very good, very intense. So it's HBO, kind of the same kind of thinking and as like The Sopranos, but
Hmm.
it's all about Baltimore and the drug trafficking like scene.
Oh,
And
okay.
so there's a lot of these common threads that you see throughout all of the seasons.
Hmm.
Um, but each is kind of like focusing on a different area. So like the second season is all about like the docks and like the workers
Oh,
there.
interesting.
But like and the season 4 was all about like these eighth graders and like how they're kind of interwoven into it. And there's some common threads and characters that show up along the way. It's really good. I actually
Hmm.
just canceled my Max subscription um to kind of save a little bit here and there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've got like a month to go to so I think I've got like 5 episodes of The Wire
Mhm.
to wrap up. But my dad was a really big advocate. He was like, you should really watch it, I think you'd like it. And I was kind of like, I didn't want to hear that. I was like, you're old, I don't.
Yeah. You wanted to discover the show for yourself.
It's a yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But the problem that I've kind of realized like is that my dad has really good taste in like music and shows, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I should have just listened
Don't
because
you hate that?
I've done
Don't you hate
yeah,
that?
the hate it. But The Wire, very good show. If you've not, give it a shot. It's for sure. Um, what is something that you'd consider a luxurious necessity? And I like to ask this of people to see which direction they take it.
Oh.
I've gotten kind of a wide array of answers. Um, some have
Hmm.
applied to like work life, some have been to just in general, like living like in their area. But what are your thoughts? Something that kind of blurs the line between necessity and luxury.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a good chair.
Okay.
Um, I just feel like I don't know. This chair is like really good. Um, I just feel like so much of our lives now are spent like in front of a screen or like a
Mhm.
computer, and then it matters so much like your lumbar support, if it's comfortable or not. Yeah, I think I would consider that a very necessary luxury if
Nice.
you can have a good one.
The ergonomics of it, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sitting on, like, effectively, like, a side table right now,
You need the lumbar support.
so I need the I to yeah, no, I've got no kind of, like, backing.
Yeah.
I'm just rotating around, on a very firm surface, but yeah, definitely. That's a good thinking too with just the amount of time that we, is kinda specifically dedicated to, like, computer and screen
Mhm.
work. It's a great point. Love that. Next question. Do you have any bits you're doing? Any kind of recurring inside jokes, things of that nature?
Hmm. Let me think. You know, it's funny that you put my workout Instagram on here
Yeah.
because my co-residents actually found the account. I unlinked it from my main account, but somehow they found it, and now they're like spreading it all around. And I'm like, guys, this is a catfish. Like, I don't look
It's
like
not.
this right now. I don't look like this right now. Okay, don't spread this around, guys.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with at work. It's some of the people that I worked with like in the retail stores
Mm.
before I started in human resources, and it was funny because like even a lot of times now when I go and I'll like see those people in person, they're like, "Swollen, what's up?" So it's it's funny that you've had that
Yeah.
experience too. So Do they like how do they work it like into conversation? Like,
Yeah, so it'll be like, so the little tag I have under the profile is like abs loading. So I just thought it was funny. So sometimes it will be like, "Oh, are you coming to this event?" And I'm too tired to go, so I just say, "No, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go to sleep." And then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're loading your abs, huh?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's it, that's it."
it's a we're loading the apps. They're in
Yeah,
they're in development. They're
yeah.
in beta. That's super funny. I love that. Um, all right, next question here. Given the opportunity to replace the national anthem with any song on your playlist, what would that be? And tell me a little bit about that. And I'd be interested to hear this, especially from the immigrant perspective too. I'm wondering how that's going to play in.
Oh man.
And I don't want to pigeonhole you into that, but I'm just I do want to hear what you have to say.
That's a hard question.
So do you want to hear some examples
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is that sure? So I've heard it's on this podcast when I've asked it too. Two separate people have arrived at Freebird as an option too. Um, let's see. Super Bass, from
Oh,
Nicki
okay.
Minaj. It's a which it's a if you've listened to the podcast, that's kind of the root of where this question comes from is the flag with Nicki Minaj on it. It's a you might have seen. I just think that's a very silly and fun idea. Um, it's a, what I asked one of my professors in college this, and he said, "This Land Is Your Land" by Woody
Mm,
Guthrie, and I think that's a really good answer, much better than I have given. But but yeah, I think there's a whole lot of ways you can go with it. Pretty like
mm.
serious, like okay, this evokes some real patriotism in me, or just like you know what, it'd be hilarious if I stood up at a baseball game. Please rise for the national anthem, and it's like some E40 or just like any kind of I don't know juxtaposing kind of
Yeah.
kind of funny thought there.
So it's hard for me because my music taste is very basic. I don't know like
Okay,
a lot of very like, I want to say, deep songs that have a
sure.
lot of meaning. So I'm thinking like Forever by Drake
Oh,
and The
I
Gang.
think that is a
You know,
very good answer.
I think that's a great song. It's got so many, premier artists.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what
It's
I
a
would go with.
I'm with you there, especially for just the variety of voices within the song too.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, I think and like it's like was it the Sprite commercial with Drake that he's like decompressing and
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like
Yep.
the liquid's like vaporizing. Okay.
And it's
Yeah,
funnier because Drake's Canadian. So
you know what? I love that. That's the perfect spin too. Is like all let's all rise for this song that was written and performed by Drake, not an American. Crucial. I love that. Nice. And last kind of a get to know you question. How do we know each other?
So I think we met in middle school,
Mhm.
or if not middle school, it has to be high school.
Right.
But yeah, I think we just met in middle school, and we've kind of known each other since then. We last saw each other at Brina and Jeremy's wedding, which was
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
Shout out to the Strongs. It was an
yeah,
excellent time. That was wow, that was 8 months ago,
yep.
which is that's a wild thought,
Mhm.
but yeah. Yeah,
And now
absolutely. That
they're gonna have a baby.
it's a
So
I know. I know. So much fun. We took like a family beach trip kind of around the time that they were going to be moving. So we were going to maybe try to go like open some boxes like with them in their house. It didn't end up working out.
wow.
Um, but yeah, so cool. And I think definitely like post and even like during college, that has been kind of the connecting the dotted line between Jeremy and Brina, like their relationship to you, like with being at UAB, being at Auburn, and kind of like running in the same circles. That was like largely like, oh, like how's Kai doing? And
Yeah.
I was getting like Jeremy's take in that way. But yeah, so that's good. Well, what middle school did you go? You went to Pizzitz then, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I there was I had to ask, but I was like, there's no way that he didn't go to Pizzitz. I don't know if we shared any classes. I'm trying to bring it forward in my head,
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
know.
either.
I don't think so. Um, Either way, would have run into each other in the halls and stuff like that. Um, well, cool. Let's get in kind of the meat and potatoes of what we can consider the pod. So I've got some kind of questions about what it is that you do, kind of your relationship with that, how you got into it, everything like that. So if you're feeling up to it, we'll get started.
Yeah, sounds good.
Nice. So obviously, being in the medical field, um, that takes like a certain level of commitment. But at what point in your life did you know that that was something that you were interested in and wanted to do? Maybe you can go back as far as you can draw the line to um like when you knew it, what sort of inspiration, expectation, anything like that.
Yeah, it's hard to say for me because as an immigrant and having parents who are immigrants, they're very much like doctor, lawyer, engineer,
Mhm.
something that will set you up for, a life kind of
Mhm.
a kind of job. So like I guess ever since middle school, they've been always trying to at least get me into one of those fields. And since they were both in medicine before, they just knew medicine the best and they kind of pushed me towards that. I wouldn't say I was like ever passionate about it, especially middle school, high school. Um, but I just always kind of went along that path.
Mhm.
And then when I got in college, it was more like I shadowed some people. I did more like medical work, volunteered in the hospital, and it was something I really enjoyed. So I think in college I kind of made my mind up to continue along with that medical field. Um, I actually had kind of this decision where I had to decide if I was going to pursue medicine and go into medical school and do something else in economics. When I was in high school, AP Econ was my favorite class, and I actually ended up majoring in econ in college. Still went to medical school though, but
Nice.
I don't regret that decision at all. I really like can't imagine doing anything else. Even in medicine, I can't imagine doing anything other than surgery. So I'm glad that ended up being the decision that I made.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so that's interesting that there was, that semblance of crossroads with your major. um was it kind of uncertain for you at that time when, or did you always kind of in the back of your head know like, well, like I'm doing this for now, and like this is going to be a focus because I really enjoy it, um but I still see myself pursuing medicine like in the long term.
Yeah, I think I actually made that decision in senior year of high school. So when I was deciding where to go for college, a big part of my decision was, am I going to go into medical school or not? And I knew Auburn had a very good track record of getting into UAB. Like I feel like 25% of UAB's medical class every single year is from Auburn, or
Wow,
at least that's what
really?
it seems like.
Yeah.
So I knew there was like a very good track record. So I knew if I was going to pursue medicine, I'm going to go to Auburn. Um, I also had a option of going to like UCLA or UC Berkeley, and if I had gone to those schools, I think I would have ended up in econ or like finance of some kind.
Okay.
So I think that's really where I kind of made my decision. I went to Auburn and I majored in kind of the pre-med biomedical sciences field, and I had a minor in econ. And then I realized I could like finish out the econ major if I like took a few extra credits.
Mhm.
So that I ended up just like getting an econ degree as well, but I'm not doing anything with it now. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. I am also not doing anything with my degree necessarily. I double majored in outdoor studies and tourism and child development, and I'm in human resources now. So, but like what I've kind of found in that is that it's I wouldn't have traded that out. Like I enjoyed those classes and building those relationships with classmates and professors and stuff. And a lot of the concepts in those classes, be they related to tourism or health or outdoor spaces, I can still find myself like applying those. So have there been maybe some concepts or just experiences from the econ degree that you've found yourself being able to apply in medicine or even just like medical school?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I've really used econ to of any application in medicine, but it's like a big part of my life. So
Hmm.
I'm like very much into like how to optimize your taxes, how should I save my money, what accounts should I have, like a Roth IRA or a 403b, that kind of stuff. So I'm very much into that kind of stuff, and my friends actually like asked me like, oh, how should I put this money, how should I spread this money out. um
Okay.
yeah, so that's still like a big part of my life, just the money management. I think that the econ degree kind of helped me a lot with that, but not so much towards medicine itself.
Sure. Is it maybe more like a personal application of
Yeah.
like you and the people that you have relationships with?
Mhm.
Okay. Nice. Very cool. I guess I wanted to know like if there was anything like that because I like was racking. I was like, I cannot like come up with anything of like how you would necessarily do it, but I'd love to hear if there was something because
Yeah.
think that would be so cool. Um, well, so obviously that's a big experience. High school to undergrad to graduate school to residency, everything like that. There's a whole lot, and that was in all of that. Was there anything that did or did not come naturally um, to you? Was there anything that like clicked right away, and was there stuff that you were just like grinding your teeth, like, oh my gosh, why can I not get this? Like what was that looking like for you?
Yeah, I think in terms of something that came naturally. So actually I went into medical school thinking I wanted to do pediatrics.
Okay.
But then I don't know, I ended up in an anatomy lab. It was like the most fun I've ever had. And then I just like love doing stuff physically. Whereas in a lot of like medical specialties, you're kind of giving medicine and seeing if it works, as opposed to in surgery, you're like doing stuff.
Mhm.
So I really love that. And that kind of came naturally to me. And I really loved the anatomy lab. I think in terms of things that came hard to me, I mean, the studying has always been hard. Like, I really hate standardized tests.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as much as I agree in the concept of a standardized test, I hate them.
Yeah.
I think with medical school, and especially just healthcare in general, you have to be so detail oriented. And sometimes I like to be less detail oriented. I feel like so much of my focus, or I have to be so focused all the time with the details. Sometimes I just want to like lay back and not think, but
Mhm.
it's almost impossible in medicine where you get a chance to just like do something and not think about it. I think that's always hard because it's just really taxing. Yeah,
You had mentioned kind of before we got on the length of hours like for the week, the 70 and 80 hours. So
yeah, yeah,
I can imagine that just by volume, but also by kind of intensity, what you're talking about, like you're always on, you're always there's the problem solving and
yeah.
just like, ooh, I'd really like to just throw this up there and kind of back burner this a little. So how do you manage that workload then? If that's something that didn't come naturally to you with like studying and stuff like that, how what are maybe some ways that you've strategies that you've employed to kind of help you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think very obviously the workload is very intense in medicine, and especially in surgery. I've had this mindset of making sure to take care of myself first. No matter what, I try to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm still working out regularly, like at least 2 times a week on the weekends. I'll go to the gym during the middle of the week if I happen to get off early for from God's blessing.
Mhm.
But I think just a lot of physical health outside of medicine is really important to kind of ease that burden that you have when you're working so much. Just being physically and mentally healthy helps a lot with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree. And just from I think that people should take that application like out, if even if you're not in medicine, like you should take that concept and
Mhm.
apply it to everyday life. Like chances are, if you are physically active, that is probably going to help you be maybe a better parent. It's
Mhm.
maybe better in whatever your other work might be. I know that if I'm not physically active, I can kind of feel it. Like, and it's I don't know if you've had this
No,
experience
I
too of
couldn't agree more. Could not agree more.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
like a fog kind of
yeah.
coming in, and it's maybe workload,
Mhm,
maybe it's screen time, maybe it's any number of things, but I feel like physical activity,
mhm.
it's such a key thing for being able to maintain the baseline even. Um, very cool. Love that thought. What impact have you seen yourself making? And I like to ask people of this, um, just because I like to get an understanding of how they are relating to their field. But what impact have you seen yourself making, be that in the community that you're in, the field itself? What does that look like?
Yeah, medicine by its nature is very much hierarchical. Like you mentioned before, you have to go through undergrad and then medical school and then residency. And then after residency, you're finally like um, a real doctor, or like what people think of as doctors. So being in medical school and being in residency, it's very hard for you to have a true like a very large impact because you're kind of always at the bottom. There's
Sure.
always someone in front of you that's you're reporting to, or they're giving you instructions, or I don't know, maybe if you have a someone that's bad that's overseeing you, they'll take the credit for the work that you do. But I think I've always been pretty good at like relating and being nice to people.
Mhm.
And now as a resident, we work with a lot of medical students. And recently, I worked with a medical student who I actually convinced they're applying to surgery now once they're done with medical
Nice.
school. So I think little things like that is very impactful for like it's very gratifying for me because at least that shows me like, oh, at least I'm doing something, you
Yeah,
know.
sure, yeah. That's I
Yeah.
love that take too of, identifying with and kind of relating to people who are going through the experience that you've just kind of reached the next, um, the next strata, like, it for me being, I worked at a summer camp for a time, bit kind of a big chunk of my life actually, and, one of the more gratifying things for me is being able to go um, and help out in any kind of capacity with like training for that staff, and also seeing like some of the people that were like my campers or that I worked with and were kind of new and young in staff roles and are now um, they've stepped into leadership type positions. So for you to mention, it's talking to other people who are currently where you have been. Yeah, I totally relate to that. So you convinced them to join the surgery team.
Yeah, I know. It was a bad decision for them. Bad decision.
Good. Do you find yourself evangelizing about surgery to people?
Um, I try at my best not to,
Okay.
because it's I think even within medicine, it's probably the toughest road that you can take. And I'm not just talking about like general surgery. I'm just talking about surgery as a whole compared to non-surgical specialties because their training is just so difficult and longer. Um, so my sister actually, she's 15 now and she's like trying to figure out what she wants to do with her life. And one thing she knows for sure, she does not want to do medicine
Okay.
because she sees what I do and she's like, I do not want to do that. And I think that's a very important decision that you have to make, especially for someone who's in medical school already. Like, look at what the surgery residents are doing and is that something you really want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 100%. And I, I one of the reasons that I wanted to take on this podcast as a project was that so much of what I saw my classmates doing, especially you and a lot of the people that went to UAB, is I was like, man, like that is so hard, and I just like don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
it's like it's so foreign to me that that they have the drive to withstand like some of
Yeah.
the difficulties there. And I've just found it so impressive. And that's a really thankful for your perspective there too. So I yeah, love love that. What does community look like for you? Be that just where you are with friends, like within medical field, or classmates. Like what I think that's such an important thing for longevity within a field, or yeah, I don't know, just operating as a person. But what
Yeah.
does community look like to you?
Yeah. So I think with how busy we are, it's very tough to have like a close knit community. One of the reasons I really wanted to be in California for training and residency was because my family is actually in California now.
Hmm.
So I knew I wanted to be close to them, and they're about like an hour and a half away. And I get to see them, I don't know, once a month maybe.
Nice.
But I think, I mean, I still keep in contact with a lot of my high school friends and middle school friends. We'll play video games together, and like college friends. I think one good thing about residency and like medical training, a lot of the times you're in forced like communities.
Hmm.
So for example, like I have 9 other co-interns with me, that we're all in the same position. We know what each other are going through. And that's a very close-knit community to me because there are people I can vent to, people I can talk to, and they know, they understand exactly where I'm coming from. So it's lucky that the co-interns that are with me are all like amazing people. They've all done amazing things and I get along with all of them. And those are the people I talk to the most every single day. So
Yeah, it's a bit of trauma bonding, maybe.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's ideally, if you are working with people, you get to grow closer to them, and it's a share in that the experiences, the things that make those positions and roles harder, as well as relishing in the wins and stuff like that. So that's good. So that having lived out of state for a time, it's intimidating. So like I'm glad that you've been able to find that too. Especially I think that Birmingham to Auburn to UAB can be kind of insular.
Yeah, I
And
agree. I agree.
and it's not inherently a bad thing, but does kind of introduce maybe some limits on like your experience. But like, was I guess because I'm not in it, like what was your I would want to know your perspective on that. I think not that I would define that as like pipeline of like medical school, but it's like there we knew a lot of people that like
Yeah.
that was what they did. That Auburn to UAB and and that was it. So like what was that like for you?
Yeah. So, like you said, it's not inherently a bad thing. I think what makes it a really nice thing is that all these people that you're already familiar with are going through the same thing as you. So you already kind of have that community, even before, getting into medical school. And so it provided kind of that safety net that, oh, yeah, yeah, I have friends here that
Mhm.
I can talk to. But definitely on the opposite end, you're kind of like almost caged in to that community because since you already know these people, they're in the same pipeline as you. You talk to them all the time because you're doing exactly what they're doing, and vice versa. It's harder to branch out, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, there are definitely upsides and downsides to it.
Gotcha. Did you was if you were someone who was maybe outside of, the Vis Vestavia, Auburn to UAB
Yeah.
experience, and kind of looking from the outside, do you think it would have been kind of hard to penetrate that group, and kinda like join in, or did you find yourselves like adding like more people of like, come on in, like what was that like?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think this is a huge weakness of mine, like a very huge personal weakness. I've never been very good at like inviting other people
Mhm,
into like my own group. Um, with that said, the people that I've always been friends with and in a group with, some of them are very good at doing that.
mhm.
So, I applaud them. And then, some people, let's say outside the group are very good at saying penetrating
Yeah,
is
I
it
was
makes it
thinking back
sound
on it.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
don't know if it was enough of a justification for
yeah,
the
like I
word
wouldn't
penetrate, but
exactly.
like
I wouldn't say they're like penetrating into the group, but some of them are very good at um integrating themselves, into part of the group and they're part of the group now, kind of thing. But yeah.
yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that and kind of seeing that as a weakness maybe. I don't know that it necessarily is, but like I appreciate the candidness. The candor with which which you shared that was really nice. Um so we've kind of mentioned before this concept of like it's a maybe the familial like expectation leading into high school experience, leading into college and graduate school and residency, like that all of that feels like a culmination. um do you now feel like you are building towards something else? Like, does it feel like you've kind of that's it. You're at like a baseline kind of, or there's even further building towards some higher kind of level of goal.
Yeah, so I think it's tough um to say because medicine is such a like step by step kind of thing.
Mhm.
For me, after training, um something I've always wanted to do was to like be my own boss and have my own practice. So that's something that I would love. And being taking care of my own business is something that I would love to do too, especially with the econ degree. With that
Yeah.
said, it's very tough these days because of how the compensation schedule is kind of shifting towards, just with medical insurance and things like that. less and less physicians are self-employed, and more of them are employed either by a hospital or by a group. So,
Okay.
that's something that I'll have to see in 5 to 7 years. But I would definitely love to one day like own my own business, like medical business kind of thing.
Mhm. So you mentioned that that has been kind of a shift as of late. So, for those of us who are not like as in tune with that, what does that look like? Is just kind of employers themselves becoming bigger and their purchasing power like much bigger too, or like cultural differences, or like combination of those and something else too?
Yeah, I think there's many elements that go into it. I think for one, employers are getting bigger. They're buying up a lot of old private practices or like private medical businesses and forming like a large group that they then end up employing other physicians
Mhm,
who are not part of the ownership of the group. And I think another big part is like a big culture shift. I think in the past, more this is tough to say, but I feel like people who were born earlier in the earlier generation are much more likely to like start a business because it was easier to start a business back then. You needed
mhm,
less capital to start a business. So a lot of them had their own business no problem, but now it's way harder to start a business. You need way more money to start it. And I think more and more people these days are more focused on kind of a work life balance. And
mhm,
being employed gives you a better work life balance just because you don't have to worry about the business side of medicine. You just have to do the medicine,
mhm.
get your paycheck, and get out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it inherently kind of lends to
Hmm.
work-life balance of like if you've got somebody who it's like you're not worried about like making sure that the building, has the plumbing that it needs and
Right.
stuff. Like
Exactly.
you're like
Exactly.
I got my
Yeah.
punch card, right?
Yep.
If I don't know if that even applies necessarily, but like for it's a yeah, that no, that makes sense. Like for
Hmm.
I yeah, I've that's something else that I hope to touch on in the podcast is people who have started their own businesses. I find that really intimidating and a huge undertaking. So it's to hear that as a goal for you. It's a best of luck. Like I
Yeah.
feel like you would be great at it. But and in hearing a lot of the challenges with that and how it's gotten harder,
Hmm.
it doesn't really surprise me.
Hmm.
But it is kind of a bummer, I think.
It's
So
capitalism.
it's a
Not to
yeah.
get political.
It's a yeah, yeah, no, I feel I think that a lot of our positions on that would be kind of aligned, like, it's if it works ideally, then, like, I think it can benefit a lot of people, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of room for just smaller groups to really kinda harness and take advantage of the
Yeah.
systems for themselves and not leak out the benefits to as many others, um, but yeah, oh my goodness. Well, anything else that's kind of like some that these questions have stirred up, kind of brought to the forefront for you?
No, I mean, I just really love the idea of this podcast because when you first started it, it kind of like clicked in my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, like Roland, he has a kid. Like, I don't even have a partner. Yeah, so I just like really love the idea of this podcast. It's really cool to me. But yeah, really, really happy. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate you taking the time in your 70 to 80 hour work week
Yeah.
to squeeze this in. It means a lot, and I'm honored to have you on. Um, So, well, I do think that that is going to conclude our podcast. Make sure that you follow Kai on Instagram. If you've got any other means of where you need to reach out to him, I would approach him on Instagram first. um, but thank you so much for your time. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you have made it this far, maybe drop a comment and say I made it 54 minutes and 45 seconds into Kaihe's episode, and I just wanted to let you know that's something that I did. And put that in the comment of whatever social post that this accompanies for. But thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.